I'd like to tell you about my father. My dad is from Scotland, specifically the city of Glasgow, which is sometimes referred to on a Saturday night as Glasgow. Glasgow is a very interesting city. It's often divided traditionally along two fronts, religion and football. If you are grown up Protestant, chances are you're going to be a Glasgow Rangers supporter. And if you were born Catholic, chances are you're going to be a Glasgow Celtic fan. And my dad grew up in this Scottish stew like volatility, tension filled city. And I used to think growing up that the hardest of the hard, in fact, tough, was forged and born from the shipyards and the steel yards with hardy men and such. But my dad didn't go into that. He didn't go into that world. He flexed a different muscle. He flexed this. He had an opportunity to go to university. And even though we're from that cultural kiln within Glasgow, he had a different aspiration. And within University of Glasgow, he met my mom. And upon graduating, they moved and immigrated to Canada. And their game plan was to just remain here, teach for a few years, and then head back to Scotland to raise a family. But that family started in Canada. They had my brother. And then 2 years after that, I entered into the world. And my dad's first words upon seeing me was, "Holy blank, he's a deadhead." So I was greeted with profanity when I came into this world, but I'm okay with that, and it makes sense. And it's important to understand the city in which my dad came from, because we didn't really talk a lot about feelings and such. That's not really in the Scottish culture to do so. So what happened a few months ago was an opportunity to see my dad in a very different light. And this came from a gift that my grandmother, his mom, gave to him in the form of letters. And this was letters that were given to him decades ago, when right before my grandmother passed away. And within these letters revealed a truth that no one in my family had heard. And that truth was that my grandmother had an affair. She was married to what I thought was my grandfather. I'd only had a photo of my grandfather, but uh, she had an affair with what turns out to be the father of my dad, who was an English pilot from the RAF, the Royal Air Force, who flew a Lancaster bomber and was killed in 1944. He was shot down in Belgium 11 months before the war ended. So my dad grew up without a dad. He didn't have a father, and I didn't have a grandfather. And within these letters of correspondences between my grandmother and the man that she loved was also correspondences between my grandmother and her father, and her revealing her truth to him. And given the cultural and generational stigma that was often placed upon people, it took so much strength and guts for my grandmother to share. And my great grandfather, then, instead of receiving this news with rejection or judgment, received it with unconditional love and said, "We love you. Come home, we'll make it work." And my dad, sharing this through tears and open heartedness, showed another strength that we actually don't see a lot in this society. We think strength is this, but he flexed a different muscle. This and this, heart and head. And it is so easy to come from a place of anger and grievance. And often men are seen through that lens, a Marlboro man, a tough guy. It is so easy to pretend that you're tough, but that's not being tough. Real strength, real courage is what my dad did. And is what my grandmother did as well. And it's opening up and being honest and truthful and vulnerable, having access to emotion and sensitivity and kindness and compassion and forgiveness. And that's a great gift my dad taught me, and I'm so proud, and I love him. Thank you.